Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to TriBooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robbo Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO Stars, George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, learner!
Here we go.
Welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Thanks to TriBooth. Don't forget the code PAP200 to save $200 on your purchase. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. This week we're going to talk about auditions and deliverables, because I see some very, very bizarre stuff in the brief, and sometimes they're quite happy for you to record your audition on a phone, which I find bit weird, but anyway, particularly as the industry's changed so much due to COVID, but phone's still acceptable by the sounds. So do you process your audition, or what do you do, George?
Well, let's start from the top.
All right. Now I'm biased because I do this as a service, right? So I literally sell these things. They're called stacks, presets, racks, FX chains, whatever the software you're using. They all have different terms. And I'm trying to be less heavy-handed on the processing that I would have done in the past, especially with commercial. Commercial, for sure, like the expectation for sound quality is very high, and the listener we're talking about big budget commercial, national commercial campaigns, big budget agency stuff. They're very discerning. They know you can't pull one over on them by over processing yourself out of a bad situation, right?
Yep.
So with them, I use very light processing for commercial. So no more than 2-to-1 compression, maybe no limiter at all, sometimes almost no limiter, and a very subtle EQ if needed, because their mic is really, it's sibilant or something. Yep. Or the mic is really dull and it's kind of lifeless and we need to brighten it up a bit, just to sizzle a little bit. And it's all very subtle stuff on a commercial. On the other end of the spectrum would be someone saying, I'm doing auditions for radio imaging and they want me to sound like the guy on the radio. And then it's, you throw everything at it that you would want to have on the sound of a radio imaging voice, which is really, really loud, very commanding, lots of EQ. So I guess the most unique that I would do on a regular basis would be maybe for anything with characters, really wide dynamic range, where they're doing, almost whispering to almost shouting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where I use a lot of compression and a lot of limiting to kind of rein in the dynamic range so that it's a lot more listenable. But that's really the point of it to me. For that is the auditions should be listenable, not irritating. And certainly zero distortion. You do not want distortion.
Yeah.
In that audition.
Thank you, Chloe.
Speaking of cartoon characters.
He's very good. It sounds real.
Yeah. But I was going to say, George, I think that's the point. I mean, I know we talk a lot on the show about not processing your voice. And I think as a deliverable for something that's going to get produced, I would stand with that. But also, when you're doing an audition, that is your finished audio. So, a bit of processing isn't going to hurt at all.
Yeah, the assumption is that an audition is never going to be processed. Now, I'm amazed how often I hear clients say, "Hey, my audition went to finish. I just got a check."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and right. I'm like, and that does happen because if the audition does sound great and it does match the needs of the client, and they do want to save time, then they actually use it. It happens.
Yeah.
But that's for a unique kind of audition. I would say that would be probably for promo, where that might be happening. I'm not sure. I don't know what. Do you guys know if that's happening where
Stuff
you
that's
are?
moving really fast.
Something where
Things
they want to fast
really
turn around.
fast.
Yeah.
Well, I can actually tell a story about that because it's just happened to me. Because I just did an audition a couple of weeks ago for Stuart Talent in New York for Jonathan, and then I got an email the other day saying, "Can you send me your banking details?" So I'm kind of thinking that audition I sent is going to be used and they're paying for it. So I haven't it's not definitive.
Are you
yet,
sure it's them sending you the information, wanting your banking details? You better check
Yes,
more
it is,
deeply
it
into
is.
who sent that email.
No, it's definitely Stuart Talent.
Yeah,
But, So that's an example of what you just said. So the audition looks like it's going to go final, which is great for me.
I mean, the better the quality of the audio you send, the more likely that could happen. And but I am hearing more and more from folks that have been using stacks, in many cases ones that I may have made, that they will get occasional feedback saying you sound over-processed. So there's more and more discerning listeners that are listening for production quality. It's been certainly much more so than since COVID, I've found. And, they're more discerning. So, if you're going to apply processing, you better know what for, why, and you better know what it's doing. Like if you can't tell you've done processing, then you may want to reconsider what you're doing, because you need to know what you're doing to the audio, and you need to hear the difference.
Yeah.
If it's so subtle because, George set it up and I don't know what it's doing, but he says it's helping a little bit with a little bit of booth resonance, that could be pretty subtle, and it could be. But most of the time, if you don't know what it's doing and you've applied some preset, you definitely shouldn't be using it.
Yeah, or don't make the mistake of you apply it and then you don't even realize, because you're listening to your low latency monitor, so you're not even really hearing it necessarily, or not aware of it.
And definitely do not judge your processing while you're recording.
Live,
For those of you out there with the Apollos, and there's thousands of you, don't judge the way you sound in your headphones while you're recording. That's not the way you really sound. That's the way you sound to yourself while you're recording. Right. You have to listen to it back in context with other audio.
Well, that's not true. You could raise the volume of your headphones so much that the ratio of the playback of your headphones compared to your head resonance is minuscule, and therefore you are actually hearing. Yeah,
that is true.
You might get feedback from your microphone by that point, but
and you'll probably get some headphone bleed too when you do that.
An ear bleed, I would say.
I think that's the best tip here so far, George, is record yourself flat and process afterwards. Give yourself the opportunity to take it off if you go, holy crap, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
If you're recording an audition, wouldn't it be advisable to actually deliver something that could be used as the final? In other words, don't touch it.
Look,
leave it super clean.
For me, it's a fine line. I'm not a voice actor, but for me, I would go, because as I said a minute ago, I mean, I see an audition as a finished file, right? Because you're recording it for a purpose, and the purpose is as an audition. For me, if they want to use it as a final afterwards, then that's up to them. But I can see why you may want to process your voice if you're doing an audition. But again, it would still come back to those parameters that we always talk about is, okay, what am I trying to achieve with the processing that I'm using? Do I need to do it or don't I?
I think you want to, in your audition, your goal is to stand out, be remembered, be picked.
True.
And so whatever does that without harming that is okay on an audition. And it's really hard to know what it is, because it's everything from just having a unique interp, and the audio quality might not matter at all, to the whole thing. If you sound very professional, then they're going to go, oh, wow, that's sounds good, whatever it is. And so that I like that one, because you're just trying to catch a very ephemeral thing in the air. Like, what catches these people's ear that makes them go, let's hire that person? It's like a moment in time, man. If your audition comes 5 before, you might not have made it, and you just got lucky, because like just the order, it's so, I don't know. It's kind of funny how like auditioning is really, you know how people try to play the stock market? Like, I wonder if auditioning is like the same way. Like, no one can actually predict, and you're just as good just like throwing your name in a hat without even having your file in there, and just your chances of getting picked as good as just a blind pick.
I think actors certainly feel it that way. I mean, I have clients I've worked with for many, many, many years, and every couple of years, I'm not booking. I think it's this, and I want to buy this, and I'm like, I don't know if it's that. I think it's just at the moment your voice brand is not the thing that they need at that moment, or that month, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like it's very ephemeral. Like, that's a good word for it. It is kind of ephemeral. Whatever you do, just do it consistently. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
You just stick. It's a numbers game,
And, and be pro about it. Like, like if you audition, like I would audition in a train, you're not going to have a good chance.
Exactly.
Or on a plane.
A plane.
Or on a
Have I
plane.
done that to you guys? I haven't done a plane yet, have I?
No, we haven't
Yeah.
tried
Shouldn't
that.
have said that. Yeah, shouldn't have
I'll
said
do
that.
that one day.
Robert brought up a good point a couple of minutes ago, though, AP. I mean, since we're talking about auditions and processing or not to process, what about interpreting scripts? Like, if you were going to audition,
Yes.
do you do 3 or 4 different interpretations, then pick the best one? How do you do that?
You might, but I've seen, like, I have a story that I've told quite a bit, but it's true. It's like the audition comes in and it's like Santa, essentially. But no one really read the script that well. And so everyone's like, ho, ho, ho. And they're just being really typical about it. And one guy is like, ho, ho, ho. Because the script is sort of this like apathetic Santa. And it was the interpretation that got it. And a lot of it is like having a unique, figure if you read it and the first thing that comes to mind you think is also the first thing that comes to everyone's mind, think about how you might increase your chances by being unique. Especially if maybe your voice doesn't play well into that. Like if it's like a thing for a movie and you need to have Don LaFontaine's voice and you just don't have it, then you're going to have to adapt and do something maybe different. But the interp is a really powerful place to go and probably the most important thing, I would actually think.
Well, I would have thought even more than processing, that would be the important part. I mean, we don't do auditions necessarily here in Australia, so I don't hear a lot of them, but that would be my thought. Interpretation is the first and foremost thing in your mind.
First and foremost. Yeah. And then after that, if you sound pro, then it's all better. Yeah. It's all like more confidence.
So, okay. So then if we're talking about that, then in the past, when we've talked about auditions, thank you, Chloe. In the past,
she's auditioning.
She's auditioning. She is.
We'll call you though. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. In the past, when we've talked about auditions, we've talked about leaving pops and clicks in or taking them out and breaths. Thoughts on that?
I don't think anybody's living, well, honestly, maybe, okay, if they're listening on headphones, and maybe people are a lot these days and take them out, but to me, just taking out pops and clicks is quite a bit of work. I mean, I guess if you're running something like, mouth declick, which does a pretty good job from Isotope, and you do like a real cursory one, but I wouldn't want to do that to a final, but it can take them away and make them a non-issue. I don't know, if you have a problem.
I just don't want to have something in the audition that is distracting. So, like, a gasp of air, of breath, or something, or
if you're good at it, take them out.
Click or
I wouldn't spend 2 hours declicking. Yeah,
I just do it manually. It's just quicker.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's also to do with monitoring. I actually talked about this earlier today with somebody. If you're monitoring yourself on triple or sextuple, I have these in-ear monitors. I've probably talked about them before. They have 6 drivers. Yeah, they're extremely sensitive. Like they expose every damn flaw in the audio, and they will make you crazy if you use them for editing voiceover. I mean, you're going to hear absolutely everything. So is that necessarily good that you would have to obsess over the most minute of details?
Because part of auditioning is how many auditions can you get done in a day. It's a numbers game. So if you're like sitting there like unless you can pay somebody, like you got to do I think you're better off doing more auditions than declicking an audition. If you could do 2 more auditions in that time, like.
Well, let's put it this way: if you hire a coach to coach you through an audition, and I know coaches that do this, like you got a big audition, like God damn it!
So you're hiring somebody to direct you for the audition.
Yeah, I want to really increase my chances of winning this, and I'm going to spend money getting coaching on this audition. Okay, you're probably going to spend a little extra time polishing that thing up and really nail the perfectionism of it all. But that's not what 99% of the auditions you're probably doing are.
Pick your battles.
True.
Yeah.
Pick your battles. Exactly.
Yeah. See, for me, I don't know. Look, for me, I think if I was listening to an audition or auditions on a regular basis, I think what Robert's saying, I don't know that a few pops and clicks and breaths would necessarily worry me, because I wouldn't be expecting my talent to clean that up in the finished audio they sent me anyway if they were the ones that were successful. because I'd be doing that anyway. So I don't know that a few pops and clicks would bother me particularly.
I think it's only if their pops and clicks are so bad that it ruins the moment in a sense.
Of course.
Like if it just is so, like Andrew said, so distracting that someone just like all they hear is that and they don't hear the performance. But
I mean, occasionally, once in a blue moon, I'll hear an NPR, some National Public Radio interview, and and you're hearing a lot of mouth noise, and you're like, boy, that's kind of distracting.
Probably at a remote studio, because usually NPR is running SM7s and PL20s and things like that are pretty immune to that.
Yeah, but maybe they're using a 441.6 in the field or some condenser,
or someone's at a remote studio with a U87 or whatever.
Now I'm hearing my own mouth noise. Oh, for God's sake!
Everyone, come on, join in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
Let's gross out the listeners.
I just drank some water. Hopefully that will stop. If you dehydrate, you make mouth noise.
Yeah.
But
ASMR.
if it's and if it's if it's a really big audition, bounce it off your family member, your wife, your kids, anybody will listen to it and say, what do you think? And if they go, Dad, what's all that mouth noise or clicking sound? Then you really got an issue. Like if nobody notices it on the first listen, they're not going to really notice it.
So the perfect audition then is a little bit of processing, whatever's necessary just to give it a bit of sparkle. Not having your 9-month-old daughter in the background.
Doesn't help either.
How about this?
Good thing I'm not auditioning.
In order of importance, the first thing is nail the interpretation.
Yes.
You got to do that.
Yeah. Agree.
Then next thing is just have it be high quality, like decent quality, so you sound professional. Next thing is if you really think you can better the quality of whatever mic you have, which might vary based on how bad your mic is or how good your mic is. You might need to do nothing. You might need to do a lot, probably, hopefully not much. Then maybe you EQ it and spice it up a little bit. And then finally, after you're done doing that, and if you want to go as far as declicking it or, like really fine tune editing, I think the one thing that's funny is when people go as far as to add music to their audition.
Oh, really?
Which has happened
That's
a few
crazy.
times.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People have done that. They've basically produced the spot.
Wow.
You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's too far.
Because you're
everyone
assuming
agrees
that's going to be the
too far.
right. Yeah.
Well, my question would be, what are you trying to hide? Would be my question.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All the
Oh, well,
mouth
that's
clicks.
what I would say with when people are processing their audio. It's like, what are you trying to hide? That's why I would never do it.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Because the other thing about an audition that it's probably more important now than it ever has been, is that your booth is also being auditioned, because that's where you're going to do the final job from. And if it sounds like crap, it's going to play not in your favour.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. And I've got to go because I'm starting to lactate. Thanks, Robbo.
Yeah.
Here's your out. That's like the best out we've had.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to TriBooth and Austrian Audio. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging, with tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.